Hello, hello and good evening. Right, I've literally just finished work. It is it's 4th of November, believe it or not. Night before bonfire night. For any of you don't know that is, that's where we set fire to stuff and do fireworks. So, yeah, how strange. Maggie's there. Hi Maggie, hi Linda. You all know what bonfire night is. Zara's there. Hello. How's everybody doing? Is everybody fully into doing chocolate now? I hope so. Kelly's there. Kelly, good call. I think good call. You said just to post to everybody that we're, for anybody in the US, yeah, it's an hour later than northern. But so Zara's there. Bitology. Hello. Sugar Sheila. Gosh, the whole crew tonight. Have I got the orange cleaned up? No, I'm going to mop the floor a little bit later. But how I do the lessons, I always talk to people about like saving cocoa butter and not wasting it, and some little tips and techniques of how to save it, because I don't like wasting things. I think it's a horrible thing to do. And then I throw a big boy bottle. There's not much in those bottles until they're on the floor, and then there's gallons of it. So there's 280 grams, but when it's on the floor, it looks a lot more. And you all know that cocoa butter, you can't wipe it, can you? Because it just gets worse. And then what was just kind of little pools on the floor looked okay, and then once I wiped it, it's like, oh dear, made it worse. So live and learn. That's my mistake. I don't like wasting things. So you tried to book a class but didn't get anything. You did. I've had a very, very busy 48 hours. Not much sleep in between those 48 hours either. So I'm going to get to all those emails later tonight, if not tomorrow. There's lots of classes booked, and I'm a bit behind on emailing everybody at the minute. So it's all gone a little bit crazy here. Billy's there. Hi, how we doing? Stuart's there. Kenneth, I got your message earlier. I will reply to that. But what I would say is... I'll reply to your text. Actually, I won't announce that on here. So, JK Pastry, hello, 8070 there. How you doing? We got amazing chocolate. Hello, good evening. No, I didn't cry. I just grabbed another bottle, but it took me ages to melt it. But yeah, you're scraping popcorn ceilings, Erin. Oh, as in like the texture. Oh, that's a nasty job. Oh, that's not a nice job. I know what you're talking about now. So you got your Malanger, happy days. Malanger's good fun. Malanger works one of those kind of really therapeutic things, right? It's just, it's lovely to make stuff. I got the biggest bowl. Oh, the biggest bowl of pistachio. Yeah, it's getting busy. You can tell it's getting busy. It's getting very, very busy. So, yeah, we've got Emily in Puerto Rico. Hello. I've got a few things to share with you tonight as well, actually. I'm going to explain what these are, all right? Because I get asked so many questions. So I'll explain what those are in a minute. They're the it's the dried. It's the lemon ash. It's the lemon ash and an orange one there. So. It's gone. Yeah, I'm shattered. I'm exhausted. Me and Mrs. So Sassy. Yeah, it's full on busy for us at the moment. So and it's classes, it's cocoa butter, and it's chocolate work as well. So yeah, full on at the moment. So Emily, I'm studying to be a chocolatier. I'm 16. Good to hear. Start early. Chocolate work is not difficult. It's just lots of little jobs done well. That's all it is. You hate technology. I hate technology. Technology bothers me. It really does. Grumpy Chocolatiers joined us all the way in Hollywood. You need the Malanger to keep warm. Yeah. Yeah, they do put off some heat, don't they? They're lovely when they're spinning. You put your hands around it and it's cold. Do you know what I did? I made a mistake today. And I do make mistakes. Quite happy to put my hands up. Yeah, I make mistakes. It's clear. It's cooled down a little bit here, and I had to make... We've had to do, I don't know what I did today, 40 moulds today. And I opened the window and it's like, oh, we'll just cool the room down a little bit. And I opened the window, but I had all the moulds near the window, and the moulds are very, very cold, so that I had sprayed them and they were all ready to go. But as soon as I poured the chocolate in, they literally started solidifying, not crystallizing, but it started drying. And it's like, oh, what have I done? And it's, you know, when you pour the mold, and you're like, oh, what have I done? So I had them all stacked down that end of the room, and it's just a little bit too chilly. And it just reminds me that whilst we get to the cooler weather, and we're all a little bit excited because we had all the warm weather, it seems like a few weeks ago, you still got to get that balance. You know, if it's too cold, things crystallise too quickly or they dry too quickly. And certainly with the coloured moulds, I don't have any colours here at the minute, but with the moulds, once they're coloured and they're dried, once you sprayed them, designed them, and all the colours are dry, that point where you put the chocolate in and then you tip everything out, decant it and you scrape it, you're just trying to leave it in that dry state. Just don't get it to crystallise too quickly. The ones that I put near the window, what happened was the very top row where I think the air was getting to it the coldest, that dried too quickly, and all of those had peel off on. And peel off is where you get a little bit colour left in the mould, but not the design, if that makes sense. And all it is the warmth of the chocolate wasn't enough to fully melt through that layer, so that when it dries, it adheres, and then when it retracts, they move across together. It just reminded me to not get too excited in the cooler weather, because we've had a few days of like 21, 22 here, and then suddenly it's kind of dropped down to 12 degrees today, which is a little bit too cold. So, and I did keep an eye on it, so it's okay. It's only one tray of blue. The rest, I realised what I'd done. I realised what I'd done as I was doing it, and it's like, why did I? I'm sure I used some sentence enhancing, but I think there's many times when you do something and you know that it's not the right thing, and I think experience should tell you to stop. Your pride says, yeah, keep going, it'll be okay, and it wasn't. So I've got just one mould to redo tomorrow, so, but it's fine, make mistakes, not a problem at all. I learn from them, so I think I've learned more from mistakes than I have from lessons. Okay, so I haven't been able to find any good pralines here, so my solution was to get melange. Absolutely. Do you know what they are? If you buy the praline paste, they're normally very, very sweet and very oily, because they will use vegetable oil in it, because it's cheap, because it can bulk it up. Make your own. Nuts and the melanges aren't expensive. I don't think they're expensive, and the payback, once you know how to use them, they'll pay for themselves within a couple of goes. So it's always a good thing. So what else have we got? I'm not the Zoom classes. Yeah, somebody asked me. You know what I'm going to do? I've got a massive chunk of work to get out of the way in the next few days, and then once I've done that, what I'm going to do is, you know, the cocoa butter class, the melange class, the airbrush class, and the shelling and capping. I'm going to do one of each in November, and that's for anybody that's missed. So I'm just going to do one of each. I'm going to do them at the same prices as they were throughout the year, for my August, September, October. But I'm just going to do one of each class and see if we can mop up the few that kind of didn't manage to get those. So I'm going to do that in November. It already is November, isn't it? I'd planned to do one this Sunday, but it's not going to happen. So yeah, I will launch those this weekend, and I'll post into stories, and I'll let everybody know when they're going to be. But the melange masterclass, the airbrush, capping and shelling, or shelling and then capping, I should say, and then the cocoa butter one, the cocoa butter class. Was a lot of interest for that, in terms of what different varieties are and how to get them to behave for you. So I quite enjoyed that class as well, the cocoa butter one. It's quite interesting, those. I love some of the comments in here. I just can't have the time to read them all out. Billy saying anywhere in the UK says Fecklin chocolate. Yeah, Town and Country Fine Foods. They sell that range. They're the only ones that I'm aware of. Comes with an interesting price point as well, Billy. So yeah, just be careful. And I don't think you can get. I think if you go on their website, Town and Country Fine Foods, they're based up near High Wycombe, I think. There's no prices, so you need to phone. You need to phone and get prices. So Grumpy Chocolatier. I'm doing my first airbrushing right now, tempering white. Happy days. So the Grumpy Chocolatier is in a race between me and Nick the Pig on who's got the most airbrushes. I think Nick's a little bit ahead of me. He's not really on weird. Yeah, the Grumpy Chocolatiers. Yeah, she bought 4. You going for it? You go for it. So, Jason's there in Napa Valley. How are you, mate? I got your order earlier. Thank you, Jason. Happy days. Or there is, Erin. There is the one-to-one. The one-to-one's a bit more in depth because it will be about the machine that you use. I do a lot of the one-to-one Malanger class is quite popular, but it's between that one and the airbrushing. Kind of probably 2 most popular classes. I would have thought that I do so. Happy days. Marvellous. I'm glad to have got my dehydrator as my heating's packed in. Yeah, I know, but that dehydrator could be expensive to heat the house. This one here, there's a question I get. A lot of questions about this thing this week, right? And let me explain. The question I always get this. I get 4 or 5 of these a day, sometimes more, right? I use the dehydrator to melt butters, okay? I don't hold them tempered. I don't want to hold them tempered. They are all, well, you see, I've not been doing anything today, so they're all crystallized, they're all dry. All I use that for is to melt cocoa butters, and I might keep one of my brushes, I might keep the brushes warm in there, okay? The reason I don't want to keep them in a melted, I don't want to keep them, we temper them and we use them. I don't want to keep them tempered. Once I finish using them, I put them back in there. It's normally set at around about 40. Sometimes when I start off, I'll start at 50. Once everything's melted, I'll just turn it down a couple of degrees, okay? You don't want to be holding, if you're airbrushing or painting, you do not want to be holding cocoa butters in temper for too long, because you'll get something called silk, okay? And whilst that's very, very clever, once you've got cocoa butter and you started making beta crystals, they will just grow and grow and grow, and as they grow, it thickens, which is how you would get silk, right? But they don't go out of temper. When you try and paint with them, they slide round and the colour separates from the cocoa butter. Does that make sense? So I don't use that to hold cocoa butters. You shouldn't hold cocoa butters in temper. You can hold them for a couple of minutes. I can balance them up there on the top, it's fine. But once I finish using that, it goes straight into the dehydrator and it goes back up to temperature, whether that's 35 or 40. If you try and hold them, just consider this, that we only paint with one colour at a time. We only spray with one colour at a time. We've got to wait for that layer to dry before we do the next colour. So there's pointless having them all tempered and lined up and then getting to them one at a time, because you'll find as you get towards the end colour, and that's been waiting the longest, when you go to paint, you'll end up pushing cocoa butter around, but the colour will separate out from it because it's just too thick, all right? So you'll know if you've done that, because when you turn your moulds out, you'll find bits of it. It won't be a single lump. There'll be chunks all over the mould that have been left in there, and that's where the colour has separated from the cocoa butter because it wasn't bound up and there were too many crystals in there, which squeezes it all out. And as we know, beta crystals, once they're really, really active, they shrink. So, and once they shrink, they spit that colour out, so they separate a slight bit. Temper them and use them. Temper them to the temperature you want and use them, and then warm them back up, and then when you need that one again, temper it again. Don't do this list of, if you go and temper all 10 colours, you're going to play a balancing act, and I would have thought colours 7, 8, 9 and 10 will be kind of distorted by the time you get to use them. So I literally turn it on, I use it to melt butters. It's just an easier way to just have a volume of butters melted rather than keep going in and out of the microwave, or doing what I do today, and that's throw a bottle of red, orange all over the floor. So, okay. What else have we got? What's that? You're thinking of getting one for your flowers? Stuff set quickly today. Yeah, Stuart. You know when the temperature drops, it's kind of like. I looked outside today. It's like it's not raining. It's like nice, kind of 10, 12 degrees, absolutely perfect. And then I opened the window and shot the temperature down so low that literally, as I was tipping stuff out on the silicone mats, it's setting. I've got like stalactites growing, and it's like, oh dear, this is not going well at all. So I had to close the window, warm the room up a little bit, and then keep going. So luckily I spotted it earlier. Nadia's there. Hi Nadia. Nadia, I love that chocolate, that blue chocolate bar that you posted earlier. Nadia always posts stuff just before Chocy Chat. Do you notice? And I always mention it every week, didn't I? If you notice. So my son got picked for the under-8 ice hockey team. I suddenly found a whole new market for team-coloured bonbons and cookies. Way to go. Connect with people. That's where the sales come from. If you're going to sit online and wait for people to come to you, you're going to be waiting quite a long time, all right? Go out and find your customers. Go out and talk to people. Go share your passion. Share your passion for what you do. And when people buy, when they engage. If people engage with you, they will buy, right? So it's not all about online sales. That tends to be repeat business or later on. But yeah, go for it. That's a good, ice hockey teams, football teams. Ron's Bonbons does the, have you seen his little penguins? Again, it's all to do with ice hockey. So Lee's asking, is the smell in your cocoa butter tonka bean? No, it's not. It's the best grade cocoa butter money can buy. And it's a specific product. It's a specific type of cocoa butter. It ain't cheap, hence the price. I'm not going to get into price wars now. You can buy very, very cheap cocoa butter, coloured cocoa butter. You can, which is literally like just a cheap fat with a colour in it. That's not what I'm doing. This for all of you that know this. Jason's there. Oh, I've got something else to show you as well. Jason's there, but how many people go around smelling the cocoa butter still? They're quite nice, aren't they? No, there's no additives in that. It's just pure cocoa butter, but it's the variety of cocoa butter that I use specifically. I'm not going to tell you which one. It's the best you can buy, without a doubt. So that's all it is. It's that. It's just very, very good colours, and made by me. We got new bottles. Some of you might have spotted these already. They are slightly different size bottles. They are wider, so they're a little bit shorter, but what it's given me is the wider neck on it. Okay, so the closure's the same. But this goes on tighter so that when you lie it on its side, there is room for it to expand. It's also slightly thicker. I can put the label on. There is a faster way that I can do these. So it's just speeded up some of the manufacturing process. So we've nearly moved over to these full bottles. They've been around a little while, but people have started getting orders of them now. So I'm still working on the naturals range. When I'm ready with that, I will launch that for all the people that keep asking. When I'm happy and I'm content that what we've got is as good as I can get, then I will launch that range. But no, there's no additives, Lee, in there. It's the best cocoa butter money can buy, and it smells nice because it's pure. It's not cheap at all. There we go. Sales pitch over. So where else have we got? Do I have 2 or 3 sizes of cocoa butter? There are 2 sizes. There are 3, but the 2 sizes I do are the 140 and the 280. That's the 280. That's the 280. That's the 140. And then for the bigger producers, I make a 500 gram bottle, which is not here. I don't know where I put it. There's a 500 gram bottle, but I make those specifically when bigger producers want. So that tends to be mostly black, white, red, some of the prime colours, black, red, white, blue. But yeah, it's double that again. So, but that one's not a common. They're the 2 sizes of the 280s and the 140s. So the 500s, yeah, you need to be patient melting that in a microwave. That's for sure. Need a bit of time as well. But I did say last week, I'll get, like, if I didn't have this, if I'm melting lots together, I'll just put quite a few into a tub with warm water, water that's around about 50 degrees, and I'll put them all in. And once it starts sinking, it doesn't need to come all the way to the top, just halfway. The bottom bit melts and the top bit drops back down. So just a faster way of doing it if you want to keep them in like a warm water bath. The label that's on there is waterproof anyway, so you know it's gonna be fine. So what's that? Test not good with colour. I don't why. Don't know what you're saying there. Any good tips with white chocolate and macadamia nuts? Yeah, macadamia nut and white chocolate's really good. Just need to roast the macadamia nuts. I always found that macadamias are a little bit easier if you've got a wok and you just kind of dry fry them. That makes sense. Because they roll round a bit better. I think you get a better toasting. When you put them in the oven, they just kind of seem to, like, you put them in the oven and it's like before you know it, they've overcooked. So macadamia's really, really good oil content as well, so it's very, very liquidy. I wouldn't say, if we were doing hazelnut and white chocolate, I'd do you know 1 to 3, but with macadamias I'd maybe even go 1 to 4 as a ratio, or 1 to 2, so 1 part nut, 2 parts chocolate. With macadamia I'd probably go 3 parts white chocolate, 1 part nut, because it's quite strong. It's quite strong, it's very oily. So what's that? And is the taste becomes bitter and not shiny for a long time? I don't know. Chocolate by Miss Ware. I have some epic photos to show you soon using your colours. Photo shoot on the day. Oh yeah, share some of those. We've still been doing a lot this week. We've had a lot of stuff to do with shipping. We've had a lot of meetings to do with website design. We've had a lot to do with distribution stuff. The next big thing we're going to do is the photo shoot for all the colours with all the shells. And the problem is I keep adding colours to the range because I've got down here, I think there's 4 other colours that I'm going to add in the next kind of week or so. Once I've got all the colours that I think I want, we're never ever going to get there. Yeah, we're going to start with the shelling and doing all those bits and pieces. So, has anyone ever used the Clargelin brands? They seem to have affordable dehydrator, but haven't used anything for theirs. Don't know that one. I had a Excalibur, which I swapped over for this one because it's a little bit neater and a bit more accurate. The Excalibur I liked, good, you know, and there's a lot of real estate on the top to put tubs, but I just couldn't get it very accurate, and like when I wanted to turn it down, it was either off or on 40. So worked for me for many years. I've just kind of upgraded, simple as that. So what's that? I actually have a stackable dehydrator that might maybe work for just melting cocoa butter. All I use it is for melting cocoa butter, and I keep brushes warm, that's it. I don't use it to make silk, I don't use it for anything else. They're either melted or it's off. When I come to temper it, totally different process. I don't use the dehydrator. Nor do I hold cocoa butter in a tempered state for long. I temper it, I use it, I put it back in there and melt it. When I need another colour, I'll grab it, I'll temper it, and I'll do it that way. So there is no benefit to tempering 10 colours, stacking them, and then waiting to see what happens. Just going to cause you. Coco Lily's joined us. Oh, well, how are you? Not spoken to you in a long time. Hope you're well. Any suggestions for packaging Creminos? I can't foil wrap each like the beautiful Italian ones. I'm thinking of having these as an option for a Christmas market. Yeah, Kelly, Creminos. To be honest, I'll bag them. Do you know, they're Creminos. They're quite solid anyway. They shouldn't be that soft. Although I know the ones that you're talking about, they tend to be the Italians wrap them in the foil, and they're much bigger. Where I've seen Creminos, they're huge in the Middle East, right? It's just one of those things that people grab. Certainly in Saudi, certainly in the lower Gulf countries, the chocolate shops, it's Creminos. They're the small squares. They're normally 2 centimetre by 2 centimetre, and they put them into bags, and they seem to hold absolutely fine. If you wanted to individually foil wrap each one of them, It's going to be a lot of work. That I would look at the clear bags for those for Creminos. They're strong enough to hold their shape without getting squashed. Like, you'd never put bonbons in a bowl because they just get damaged, right? But Creminos, yeah, they'll be absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. So, get my first airbrush this weekend. So excited to try new designs and not spend 3 hours painting the background layers. All good. It's all good. Airbrush is good fun. But it's nice when you mix it up with other things. Oh, I was going to talk to you about this. I've got a question about these. You know when you do stamps? Where you do stamps, and the question was, does the chocolate need to be tempered? Yes. If you just melt chocolate and you pour it in the mould, it won't be firm enough. And the danger is, I get these little. You can tell I've got daughters, can't you? You've got pink. Everything's pink. They're just little knives and fork kits that I broke down. The chocolate needs to be tempered so it's absolutely solid and smooth. And then with your colours, if you temper them down and use them at around about 26, you just need to do a tiny dot and press down. If your chocolate isn't tempered, you'll find that when you press down, this will crack in half. Or worse, it'll get stuck in the mould and then you'll pull the stick out and that's still in the mould, which is just not fun at all. Yeah, it does need to be tempered. It's probably easier. I mean, I use silk, obviously, but I think if you've got micro, just overload it a little bit and then melt it down and then pipe it. I always pipe, this is not the right mould for it, but this one is. I always pipe it so it's absolutely flush with the top, right? So that I get max. So when we do that little design, it goes all the way to the edge. You do need to wipe it in. You do need to just give this a little bit of a wipe in between. You don't need to put as much cocoa butter into here as you imagine, all right? But take the temperature quite low, take the temperature down to 26, small dot, give it a press and go along. Don't do lots of dots and keep pressing because you'll load too much up on here. And then as you get along, as you get further along, you'll find that those lovely designs just kind of disappear because it all gets blended into one. So that is, yeah, you do need to temper them. And I'll melt them down. I'll melt them down and reuse it again. So it's just chocolate. It's just some random chocolate that I just keep doing over and over and over and over. Nothing wrong with that at all. Chris is there. Chocolate aesthetic. I always struggle to say your word. It's like chocolate aesthetics is there. It was 5 degrees there today in Baltic. 5 degrees in Northern Ireland. There's two types of dehydrators. The ones that blow the fan up from underneath, they look like they're circulators, but they're not. I've always found that the stuff on the very, very bottom shelf, I know the one you mean, it's like a circular one that you stack up. And for drying flowers and things, it's probably really good because they've got a really high moisture content. I always found that the ones on the very bottom just over brown. So if you like drying fruit, strawberries and things like that, the one on the bottom row would just like be brown. And as you got to the middle towards the top, they keep their vibrant colour. Whereas when I swapped over to this Excalibur and the fan's on the back, it was a little bit more even. So a dehydrator with a fan at the bottom kind of never really worked for me. So having used and bought a few over the years. So yeah, it all has its challenges. I wanted to know more about robed chocolates with pâte de fruit. Yeah, you're into some advanced area. I think the tough one with that is you need a good pâte de fruit recipe. And secondly, it needs to be room temperature when you enrobe it because very often if they're chilled and they've got any moisture on them, the chocolate goes on. And as it goes through that tunnel, if you've got an air blower over the top, it just literally blows all the chocolate off it. So, yeah, it's a tough one. Tough little technique, that one. Probably better to hand it unless you're doing many thousands. So, who else? So many bottles. Megan, there aren't that many bottles, really. Because there's more on this side. There's more over here. There's enough. There's enough. Fancy Nancy's joined us. Hello, all the way in Canada. Who else have we got? Do I have any starter kits of cocoa butter? No, I don't. It's something that we explored. it's something that we explored. Would we do a smaller taster pack? The difficulty is that the packaging and the bottles cost more than the cocoa butter, and then when I added up the labelling, they came out. So where we looked at 70 gram, where we looked at 70 gram bottles, which is half of this again, they came out at about the same price as those. Working out, believe it or not. So it's the bottles and the packaging. We swapped over to these bottles, which cost more, a little bit more, but it's thicker plastic. But no, I'm not going to. We're not going to do a smaller size. I don't think it's. I just don't think it's cost effective to do smaller sizes. It takes longer to fill them, and it just becomes more difficult. So, yeah. Jason's saying smelling the cocoa butters is just part of his daily routine. Boy, Jason, mate, you need to get a life there. I shouldn't say that, should I? So, yeah, soon we're going to need a support group for the smell addicts. There's nothing wrong. I do it. I do. I sent these to somebody who's an absolute avid, like, another brand. They're like, no, I'd never use anything else. I've sent them this, and they're like, I've thrown all my other ones away. They smell. Do you know? I know they smell nice, and I know they're well made, and I know I make them, so I'm in love with them. What I would say is that it makes a difference to the final product flavour. If you've got any other brands of cocoa butter, just give them a smell and give them a taste if you dare, and you'll see what I mean. We did this because I wanted them to airbrush, specifically airbrush. And then when we looked at all the other qualities that we were looking for, it was like, with the other brands that I've used, it's like, why don't they taste nice? If I'm going to put something, because that's been my life in the kitchen. If we cooked pasta, I worked for a very, very, very famous chef who had a 1 second fuse. And even when we cooked pasta, we had to taste the pasta water, right? Was it salted properly? And it was taste, 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 taste. Like, you had a spoon in your hand more than you had a knife. So I came from that school of, like, questioning, why doesn't it taste nice? And I was using other ones. It's like, why don't they taste nice? These should taste nice. If I'm putting it on my chocolate and I'm spraying a layer, it should taste nice too. And I know they smell nice. I don't know if anybody's been brave enough to taste some, but have a taste. So they taste nice as well. And that's got to be half the battle, isn't it? Like, we're going to put this layer on the outside. It's got to taste nice and smell nice. And then if it does, it will then make a difference to your end product. I know it will. So, I know it has for mine anyway. So everyone that comes into my house when I'm painting, spraying is like, ooh, chocolate. Yeah, my brother said to me, do you ever get used to the smell? I'm like, no, I like it. It's not a bad thing. The girls come home from school. If I'm spraying, they know I've been airbrushing when they walk in the house because they can smell the cocoa butter, right? Whereas before they could smell the cocoa butter colours, which wasn't good. So, but yeah, when you're spraying, it's quite nice. Like, it gets all over your clothes, and you're like. Somebody said it smells like Curos. Does anybody remember the aftershave Curos? It's like, there's another person that needs to get a life, right? They do smell nice. It smells lovely in it. I have fresh mint. How can I use it in chocolate? Charity. Mint is mint's a soft herb, and it's there's no oil in it. So because there's no oil in it, you need to be really, really delicate when you heat it up. So what I've always said with mint, the soft herbs are mint, dill, tarragon, chives. They're the onion family. You don't really want to put those in chocolate; it doesn't work. But specifically mint, if you put it into cream and just kind of bring it, if you take it over 54 degrees, 54 degrees, it goes black, right? Same as basil. So if you put it into cream, just warm some cream up to about 60, let it cool down. Once it passes that 50-degree mark, scrunch up all the mints really, really well, put it into the cream, give it a stir, put some cling film over it, and just leave it to stand and infuse. Strain it out, and then you'll get that mint flavour. With fresh mint, as soon as you boil that up to high temperature, the little flavonoids in there, they disappear quite rapidly. So do lots and lots of mint. What I wouldn't do is put chopped mint into something and then blend it or macerate it with a stick blender, because first you'll get this lovely green colour, it's beautiful, and then as it cools down and all those acids leak out, it turns brown. So you end up with this lovely mint flavour, but it goes brown and it's not particularly nice. I think the trick with mint is to be careful you don't heat it above, ideally 54. Don't heat it above 50, and let it macerate in the cream for a while, and then use that cream to make the ganache. And do it that way. You can dry it. You can dry it and shred it, and you can use your dehydrator for that on a very, very low setting. But again, once it goes above 50, it goes brown. But what you can do is crumb it down a little bit. Just sieve it really, really well through a really, really fine sieve, and you combine some of that into a ganache. If you do too much, it'll end up tasting not of mint but of chopped grass. So lesson learnt there. I learned that lesson years ago. So it's like, get more flavour in there. The flavour's disappeared, it's gone. So yeah, also very good in caramel. Make the caramel, and once it cools down, you can put that into there as well. Sorry, having internet issues. Me or sorry about the internet issues last week. I'm going to talk to you about these lemons as well in a minute. So, has anyone made anything with fig puree from Byron? Not sure why I bought it, but it seemed to have. I'm not sure what to do with it. I love fig preserves and salty things, but not sure what with chocolate. Make pâte de fruit from that, or a fluid gel. Pâte de fruit's quite nice. I think the nice thing with figs is they've got the little seeds in, and when you eat them, you get the little bits that you can kind of bite. So you don't want to strain. You don't want to strain it out too much. You can bind it into a ganache. I just don't think you can do too much. If you can get fig syrup, but what goes really, really nice with figs is you get date syrup, and date syrup is quite earthy. It's quite like molasses, but if you bind that with it and put that in a ganache, that's really, really nice. But figs and lemon works. Figs and salted lemon works. Figs and tarragon's really, really nice together if you're bold enough. Don't put figs with anything too citrus, all right, because it will just kill off the flavour. Hello, what's the difference between my white and not quite white? How does it translate into colour in chocolate? Advantages, disadvantages? Why would you choose one over the other? Yeah, good question. That one is made with calcium carbonate. I'll get the other whites. Where are we? They are much, much different. That one is not quite white because it's just an off cream colour. Okay. That one, my white's got titanium in it. So anybody in the EU, you can't use that one. You can buy it, but you can't use it to put in foods that you would then sell. For the rest of the world, which is gigantic, you're allowed to use that because it's only the EU that's banned titanium. The rest of the world doesn't have a problem with it. So for anybody that's in the EU, but they're both natural products because titanium's a mineral, right? So they're both natural products. Titanium's a stone, it's a mineral, right? So it's just a white powder. It's not, it's a white rock that's then ground down. Whereas that's calcium carbonate, which is chalk. So the advantages and disadvantages for opacity, that blocks more colour. So the opacity is the ability for one colour to show through another. With the not quite white, it's nowhere near as good as titanium in terms of opacity. No, not even close. And there isn't anything on the market that is as good as, which is why it's used in so many things, right? So it's used in paints, but medicines, toothpastes, there's lots of bits and pieces. It's banned in food in the EU, but it's not banned in medicines or toothpaste. And I believe there's some health food supplements that allow titanium as well, which doesn't make sense at all, does it? Whereas the not quite white is calcium carbonate. So I don't know. You know what? I mean, I do use this, and I have used this, and it gives me some good opacity, but I need to layer it up a little bit. So you end up using a tiny little bit more. Anything that goes to the EU, generally they don't buy anything with titanium in it. Some do, some don't. Some do competition work. Some do photography shoots. Some people have my white in the EU, you're allowed to buy it. You're allowed to buy whatever you want. What they can't do is put it into food that's being sold. If they are making things that isn't being sold, like showpieces and bits and pieces, they will use that. But the not quite white doesn't quite give you the same opacity, but it's the next best thing. And the ratios are very different. I know there are 2 other brands on the market, and theirs is like, it's like thick double cream. They put so much in there that you can't spray with it. And I've got that one, and I couldn't get it to spray, and I put it through a 1.2 needle at 75 psi, and I still couldn't get it to spray. So, and I have a 1.6 needle gun, and it wasn't like, if it doesn't go through a 1.2, it's not going to go through a 1.6 either. So they're big needles, right? They're really big needles. There was no way that I'd normally spray cocoa butter, but I had those. It sprays really well, that, and it smells really nice, and it's still a natural product. The first version of this, we put vanilla seeds in it, and then I opted to take them out when I got a finer grade of calcium carbonate, which is E170. In terms of advantages and disadvantages, you can see that's the, I can't grab that one down, not much in it. That's the not quite white, that one there, and that's my white. There isn't much in it. It's just to do with the opacity of it, so it's just a slightly creamier colour, which is why we called it not quite white, because it's not quite white. Okay. Pectin is the only fruit thickener for fruit jellies. No, there's lots of thickeners for jellies. It depends what your what level of shelf life. I mean, you can there's gel and gums. There's type F, type LT. There's lots of gums, gum arabic, guar gum. They will all thicken jellies. It's whether they're heat stable or not. The reason we use pectin is it's heat stable. It's also, if you get the right one, it's thermo reversible, so that you can cook it and then melt it down again if you want to. So the lilac colour looks amazing. Yeah, I have to be careful pulling these down, because you know what, if I get the wrong one, I'm going to end up wearing all of it. That's the lilac, and it's called Do You Lilac Me? Love that one. That was Salma. Salma named that one. She's like, do you lilac me? That's Salma's one. Talk of Salma. There's Salma. Any good Easter ones? I don't know. James, can you alter the size between the shelves? Yes. But I'm not going to, because I've got them just set, so some balance on the others. But they're not all. That's not everything that's stored in here. So. But yes, I can, but we're gonna change the shelves very shortly. I have big metal shelves on this side, and then in another room as well. So, oh yeah, fennel sugar Sheila. Do you not know fennel pollen? Fennel pollen. If you've got fennel growing, and just leave it to go to seed, and when it dries, put a big bag over the flower heads and just give it a good rub, and you'll get these yellow. You get the yellow pollen come off. It's the most fascinating flavour enhancer. It is really, really strong. It's got a better flavour of pollen of fennel than the root. And in terms of like sprinkling it on salads and using it in marinades or whipping it into mayonnaises or dressings, it's really, really nice fennel pollen. It's really, really lovely. So. Remember that I tried doing candied violets in France some time ago? Yeah, same process. They're just dried and rolled in sugar. Not at all. Some do do them in. They lightly whisk egg whites. They roll them in that and then dry them in that. Once that dehydrates, then they roll them in sugar. So, but that's, I mean, it's a really old. Remember doing my course. Remember doing my advanced pastry. And we had to do candied fruits, and I had to do candied violets for that. They brought me this sad thing of petals out. It's like, great. I always got the bad stuff. And do you know what else I had to do on that course? I had to do a chestnut souffle. This is the advanced. So anybody that ever did City and Guilds, This is 7063 Part 2, the advanced pastry, and it's with John Hubert at Thames Valley University, he's a professor of patisserie, and he was an absolute animal. Like nothing was good. Everything that I made, fail, every day, fail. Got to the end of the course and he's like, top marks. So, but yeah, a challenge, definitely a challenge. But yeah, chestnut souffle, you got to get the marron puree and then keep cooking it out until there's got no water left, and then make the souffle and try and work out how you're going to get some flavour out of it, because it doesn't really have a lot of flavour. So I think that was my curveball that he sent me. I was thinking about buying a small magic temper, delivering to the UK. It's $4.50. Nearly fell off my chair. Can get easy temper all the way from Canada for a third of that. Yeah, magic temper's expensive. It really is expensive. I've seen one, I haven't used one, I don't own one. I've got the Kadzama, I've got an easy temper coming on the way, but magic temper's expensive. I think that yeah, I'd be interested to see what their sales figures are like, because there's serious investment for an incubator that. So, and I know it's got Bluetooth and all these clever gadgets on that, but when I looked at the volume for the mini one, or the Alpha, when I looked at the volume of silk that it would be making, it was just like a third of what I'd need in a day, right? So it's 1.8 degrees in central Scotland this morning. Yeah. Chrissy's there. Sorry I'm late. Don't worry about being late. It's only just gone 9:15. So Chrissy, you've made it in time for Chris and Mother Baker to start arguing. I don't know where Nick is tonight, but they're going to start. I know they're going to start. Shall I tell you about these? You know, I mentioned the lemon ash, okay? So we don't have smell-o-vision. For anybody that's been on my hands-on course recently, I'll have shown you this. It's stronger than lemons, right? So, and all I said is that's the tray it went in. They went in, that's an orange, obviously, and they're the lemons. And they're completely dried. In fact, I can't even get a knife through these. Oh, there we go. They are completely dried. And in the inside, it's ultra lemon. So, I'll take those off the tray, and I'll do is I'll grind those. They're absolutely hollow, right? So all the water vapor's gone and they're caramelized on the outside. What I will do, that stuff I won't keep, it will clean. Those ones I will powder down the lemons. If I drop those, it will just shatter into a million pieces. I'll powder that down in a blender, and then I'll put it through a really big sieve, okay? Oh wait, it's a bigger sieve than that. We'll put it through a sieve, okay, onto a sheet of paper, and just make sure I'm not going to force it through, I'm just going to tap it through, right? If you start forcing it through, you're going to get more fibre go through than you want, okay? So powder it in a very dry processor. If you add that to caramels or ganaches, it almost looks like you put vanilla through it, but what it is, it's a very strong, very strong flavour. And works with all citrus fruits. So you can do, yeah, lemons, limes. Grapefruit doesn't work so well. Grapefruit doesn't work so well at all. It's very bitter, and you don't really get those. There's not much flavour in the skin of a grapefruit, but the grapefruit's not a natural product. It's a bloody hybrid that was cross-colonised with everything. But they're hollow, so dry them out. They go in the oven. I don't know how long they took. Week, 10 days. Not on constant. We put them in the bottom of the oven, and to start with, they're just a little bit squashy. But as you use your oven and it goes on and off, very often when you turn your oven off, it stays hot for many hours, and it will dry down. It will cool down, but these will dry, and then you use it again. So over a period of a week, nothing bad's going to happen because nothing's going to grow in there or go mouldy. But what it does mean is it dehydrates. All the water vapor goes completely, leaving just the fibre and the oil, and the oil's in the skin. When I puree that, it's going to be with everything, every single bit. Okay. So we'll powder that, not together but separately, but it works great. It works amazing with lemons and limes and oranges. Really good. Really good with satsumas as well. You get a very different, and clementines. You get a very different flavour profile between orange and satsuma, if you've ever used them. Well, they're called easy peelers here for some reason. They're not easy to peel at all. But that was the beginnings of how we do the ash, and those are absolutely hollow. But what it does leave me is this little powder here. It gives me some options of flavour enhancing. So where I might use malic acid to raise the acidity of something, I don't use citric acid, don't like it at all. Malic acid is just a slower growth of acidity and it tails off slower, whereas citric acid is wallop, your eyes water, and it's there forever. And then eventually it dies off when everything you've been eating's gone, like the next day. So where I might use a malic acid in something to raise the acidity, I might use some lemon ash, but we'll fold it into caramels, we'll fold it into ganache. It's absolutely amazing in caramel. It almost looks like you've put vanilla in there. It's just a very, very cheap way of doing it. Try and buy the organic unwaxed ones if you can. You don't find much waxed fruit anymore, not in the UK anyway. And it'll be on the label anyway. But try it if it has been waxed at all. Just give it a good rinse under warm hot water, and then just put them in the oven and forget about them. And I don't know what day we put those in last week. So where we use the oven on and off, it just dries out those fruits. But it's really, really nice flavour enhancer, and it's a spice. It's no different to having sumac or goji berries or cloves. Cloves are a flower. They dry them out, they powder them down, so it's no different to that really. It's just very, 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 for anybody that's been on the hands-on class, I think there's a few, it's really, really strong lemon. When you put it into a caramel, totally changes it. So the first fruit, yeah, that's an orange, that one, just dried out, completely hollow, completely, nothing in it at all. Absolutely hollow. That one I literally just push my finger through, so the inside I'm not going to tip it out because that's got all the good stuff in it. The stuff that's on the tray, that I'm not going to use. Okay, that's just the juice that's come out. So fruits have got sugars in there, fructose, so that's what will have burnt on there. Maillard effect means it's just going to dehydrate, and once it's dehydrated, what we're left with is the fibre and the oil, and it's the oil that's still present because that doesn't disappear when you heat it. Will you offer some cocoa butter bundles again as you did with the autumn colours? I did the Christmas ones, which sold. I didn't do any more of those because I started to get hundreds of things saying, can I swap this one? Can I swap this one? Can I swap this one? And it was, it's probably easier if you just select the colours. We're gonna have a look at some pricing with some bits and pieces shortly. So because we've got a new website, but just to make it a bit easier for people to select. But yeah, in terms of doing, I might do something for Valentine's, but like the Christmas colours, I think we're kind of there with that. So I will have some exciting news for you. Reference your cocoa butters, really. Would it be possible to do it as pink without E171? Love that colour. I could give it a go. I don't think you would get the opacity, and I don't think it'd be quite as luminous. The red that I've got, I have to take one of the colours and I have to put acids with it to kind of invert the colour. It's a bit sciencey, this. If you'll notice on the It's Pink label, it's got an acid written down on there. So I have to make a slurry and then put an acid in there. And then once it's changed that colour and I've tested it, then I neutralise it. Then I have to dry that out and then I can use that colour. So there's a bit more to it than just tipping some powders in and giving it a blend. I'm at a very, very different level to that. So I'll give it a go and give it a test it, but I don't know if it's, the thing is, the EU, like for the EU, I know you guys aren't allowed titanium, but it's only a small part of my market, and I can't keep changing it. There are some countries that can't have certain colours, and it's a tough one. I'll give it a go and see whether it works, but you would need to put white into it to get it to be pink. Otherwise, you're just going to end up with a red. Just end up with a red. Or a very dull red as well. So it's the white once it's been I changed the pH, the colour with an acid so that I can change the vibrancy of that red that's in there, or the particular red that I'm trying to change. So happy days. Everyone loves the smell of the shop. Yeah, Stuart, your shop's beautiful, Stuart. So Kuros back in the 80s. What else we got? Am I missing any questions? Where have we got? Loads of people joined tonight. Trying to get totally agree on the taste for coloured cocoa butter. It's a great talking point with customers, as they're always curious about shiny colours. Yeah, do you know, Emma? It's got to taste good. Do you know? I'm from that school. I like pretty colours. I like designs. I like bright, vibrant. If I can spot the colours, and I like well presented things. But I think after many years and working at the level I've worked as a chef anyway, it always comes down to taste. And I recognise that customers didn't come back because they looked nice, plates of food. They came back because it tasted nice. People will, other people say this phrase, we eat with our eyes, we choose with our eyes, we come back based on the taste, right? So it's got to taste good, and I think this is the whole thing with the colours is, it's very easy to make the colours. He says that it's not easy to make the colours. It's a straightforward process to get the colours, right? It's a different process to then get those other things ticked, which is why I ended up with the price point that I ended up with. Is that somebody would say to me like, well, the other brands, they're cheaper. Okay, it's a different product, because I don't think there's anybody doing what I'm doing with it. So it is what it is. I'm buying the best cocoa butter you can buy based on a specific trait, and if it was that easy, they would all be smelling this nice, wouldn't they? Right? So there's also other things that I'm doing to it. I don't buy a load of powders and stick it into a load of cocoa butter. There's so many more. Like, we haven't got Purple Rain, and I know that's going to take me 3 days to do, right? Start to finish. So I'll make enough of it to last me for the number of sales, but it's not, I've run out tonight, we'll make some more. It doesn't quite, it's not like that for me. So I have 6 black lemons like this. I was scared to take the next step. Use it. Well, do you know, the black lemons, you find this in Middle East cooking, right? So they have the black limes and the black lemons. So it's nothing new. There's lots. It's not like the mahlab spice that I use. I do a date of mahlab. Mahlab's a spice, ancient spice. It's never really made it to the West because maybe they can't pronounce it. I don't know, but hugely popular. Basically, it's a cherry. Shall I grab some? It's called. I'll grab some. I'll show you. It's a cherry, right? It's a cherry. It looks like a cherry, and they take the nut out of the centre, and when they grind it, you get this powder, and it looks like this. And it smells of cherry and like amaretto, and it's you find it in Middle East food in something called mamul, which are the little date. They're like little stuffed date biscuits. And you find them in mamul when you get to Eid, and it's incredible. But I never see it used in Western kitchens, and it's just one of the most amazing spices. And all it is the middle seed from a cherry that's then grated to a powder, and it is absolutely like the room's just filled up with that smell instantly. So the lemon ash, yeah, it's just a cool way of using it. So Paul, you said, how do I make the lemon ash? You might have to watch this one over. So martini glasses are the dogs, or I don't have a sweet tooth, but I can eat a whole box of them on my own. Do you like glacé cherries? Well, I've got some in here. Guess what I was making today? So, do you mean those? Can I tell you a secret? So, I said I was in the army, right? And I went to do a course. I had to go and do a course before going to cook for royal families and what have you. So I had to go and pass this course, and we had to write these rationales, and I needed something with maraschino cherries, and I wrote marijuana cherries, right? And then the next thing you know, I'm getting a tap on my shoulder. It's like, you need to go and see one of the senior officers. And he's turned this bit of paper around to look at me, and he's like, "What's on your mind, young man?" And I was like, "No." He goes, "You like smoking, you like doing stuff the wacky backy." I was like, "I have no idea what you're talking about, sir." And he went, "Well, read that." And it's only when I read down it, and it didn't say maraschino, it said marijuana cherries. It's like, oh, get out of jail and explain that. So, yeah, glacé cherries, they're a bit snackish, those, aren't they? So, I had one of Jack's chocolates, one of Jack Ralph's chocolates. He does the Bakewell. Oh my god. Yeah, it's one of my top chocolates this year, without doubt. It is absolutely, yeah. Emily, can I use tangerines? Yes, you can. Tangerines are lovely. Satsumas are lovely. Tangerines are lovely. Tangerines got a really unique flavour. Satsuma has, and then oranges. They're all slightly different. So, kumquat ash, I don't know. Give it a go. Why would you use kumquats when you could just get bitter oranges? Same flavour profile. So. Fusion chocolates, a bonfire. Yeah, it's bonfire night, isn't it? And it's strange in Britain. We celebrate we celebrate November the 5th. I've always tried to get my head around this. That was actually an act of terrorism, I suppose, back in the day. So Guy Fawkes tried to blow up Parliament, and it was Charles I, and we still celebrate it. We're a strange bunch here in the UK, aren't we? So, happy days. Right, let me scroll through and see. Jackie's there. Hi, Jackie. The pink sounds very complex to me. Yeah, it is. It's probably no, it's not my most complex one to make. I have a range. There are only 3 colours that we can use. It's blue, red, and yellow. Right? There's only 3 colours. What you do with them and how you invert them or convert them dictates on the colour ranges that you can do. So with my science cap on, I understand that. I understand the process. My difficulty was I didn't actually know what colour it was that I was creating. But my very lovely wife bought me my glasses so that I could start seeing some of the colour ranges properly. I had to learn what those colours were as well, because you all see purple and go, well, that's purple. I had to kind of learn what that was. But we're there with that. But yeah, yeah, it's not as simple as yeah, it's not like a recipe. Throw this much in and blend it. There's a lot to it. There's a lot to it. Particularly if I want to get it perfectly right. There's some acidities that I'm looking for as well. So the neon bright. I love that you've launched a really good and very Coca-Cola business as someone who's colourblind, while my husband claims he can't cook meat because he can't detect doneness. Yeah, you can. Thumb test, right? Use a thermometer. I cook it. Look, I've been cooking years and years and years. When we roast a turkey, I don't go, oh, is it? But I don't. I use one of those because you can't guess temperature. It's exact. It either is or it isn't. So. Oh, candied chestnuts. Yeah, they're nice, but they're yeah, you get diabetes. You need some insulin with those, don't you? So, I've done a cherry bakewell this time. Do you know the one that Jack had? He gave me a whole selection. Well, no, he gave the girls a whole selection. I'm just purely a bystander that's allowed to have a snack on one or two of them. So I'm going to shout. I'm going to buy some more from Jack. The Bakewell, sentence enhancing. Yeah, it's good. There's a few in there that are really good actually, and Jack's a real flavour monster, and I like flavour. I don't like wishy-washy. I like in-your-face flavour. I don't want to guess what's in something. I hate that. If somebody goes on, oh, it's mint. It's like, no, it's not. It's nearly mint, but it ain't mint. So yeah, I like yeah, cherry bakewell. Love using desiccated coconut with glassy cherry, top combo, and a bonbon. Totally. When one complements the other because they're two opposing acidities. They're quite good. Coconut's really at the low end, so and it's not sour. It's sweet nut, isn't it? Right. Whereas cherry is sweet on the sour edge. So yeah, they complement us really well. So, do you blend the cherries down or put them in whole? I think Emma's asking Paula. I'd slice them and put them in whole. Don't try and blend these cherries because there's no way of piping them afterwards, right? So you can blitz them into something, but why would you? It's good texture. They're quite glassy. Cherries are quite solid. They've got a little bit of bite to them, and they've got a good shelf life in them anyway. So you might as well just put them in. We use mahlab a lot in pastries, especially braised Easter bread. It's such a subtle yet fulfilling taste. Hard to describe it. I wouldn't call it umami. It's nut. It's almost amaretto. That when you smell that, it's almost amaretto. It's quite incredible. So mahlab, give it a go. It is really lovely, and it's real wintry. It's got real wintry connotation to it. So I put homemade raspberry jam and an almond sponge with roasted almonds on top with buttercream. Yeah, totally. There's nothing wrong. I had one of my jobs. I had access to an archives, a Royal Archives, and I used to go and look at the old time off that I had. Didn't have much time off, but when I had small windows of opportunity, I would go up to the archives and I'd look through some of the old recipes, particularly. And I'd look at some of the old dining menus that, menus that went back to like Charles I, Henry VIII. Some of the, Heston thinks he's got the monopoly on like 30-course menus. Like I've seen menus that were 3 days, right? 200 courses over 3 or 4 days, right? And it was, a swan followed by roast hedgehog, followed by, a pound of shaved truffle, and, it went on 4 lobsters each. The Bakewell tart, I found a recipe for a Bakewell tart, an original Bakewell, and it was something like dated 1740, and it was incredible. We duplicated it and it was absolutely amazing. It doesn't look anything like the Bakewell tart that we have today. For anybody that's British, it doesn't look anything like that, but it still used the cherries. It's still made this very rough kind of frangipane, but used hazelnuts and almonds. And then the pastry wasn't sweet because it was made with lard and other bits and pieces. But we kind of redid it, and it was quite surprising how incredible it was. Really quite surprising. So, and the amount of butter that was in it was obscene. And now I understand why so many of those royals had gout and heart disease. Happy days. Raspberry and almond works together as well. Raspberry and almond's always been a good pairing. So before writing out mahlab. Oh, thanks guys for writing out mahlab. That's the spelling there. mahlab, mahlab. Sometimes it's mahleb, mahleb, but most of the time mahlab. But yeah, give it a go. It's quite easy. You'll find it in the halal shops. You'll find it in some of the ethnic shops. But it's just a yeah. When you open it and smell it, you'll go, that's not like anything I've ever tried before. So yeah, we'll kind of give that a go. But you can blend it into ganache. It's really nice. So and it's ancient. Nothing new about this. Thousands of years they've been using that, and they just take this little dried nut and grate it. But we've yet to explore that world of spice here. We're a little bit stuck on cinnamon and nutmeg, aren't we, in the UK? I don't want to say the West because I think there's some other areas that are a bit more traditional and cultural. So yeah, pheasant's amazing. I was watching a pheasant pie with truffles. I've seen recipes where I've seen banquet recipes, like royal banquet recipes, where it was whole truffle, a whole truffle, right? A whole white truffle, wrapped in like a chicken mousse, and then put in pastry and baked, and then served, and a slice taken off it, which is probably similar to doing something today like a sausage roll, right? And it was like per person. And when I think about the price of a white truffle, which is probably about that size, a whole white truffle that size, fresh, probably set you back £500-600. And they were doing that as a intermediate course. That's just, yeah. When I saw some of these menus, some of the stuff, the lobster, some of the ingredients, some of the banqueting menus that I've seen that are like 500, 600, 700 courses over 4 or 5 days. Absolutely obscene. But it was very, very cool being able to get to the archives to read all this stuff and understand this cultural, you know, we went this distance. There was a point where there weren't as many people, so there was an abundance of ingredient. Now we've got lots of people and a lack of ingredients. So and I think there are ingredients that have lost their way a little bit as well. There's certainly more heritage stuff being grown again, so which is great. So what recipe are you sharing? I recently found this website that has transcribed old recipes written by my grandma's, etc. It's so nostalgic. Yeah, share with that. I have some of that. I love my old books. I've shown you guys before. I've got an original Constance Spry and Rosemary Hume, and it, you know, it mentions agar in 1945, and that was at the Savoy, and it's like how to use it, and none of this stuff's new. None of this stuff is new at all. Even this black lemon, none of it's new. I was doing this mid-90s. I worked for Michelle Brass, and that was my life for 3 weeks, just drying red onions, lemons, limes, turning it into ash, and then giving it to the kitchen, thinking, God, why am I here? Why am I doing this? But you know what? Years later, I realised how they're just little flavour notes, and they are seasonings that we can do that. So, happy days. Yeah, I love that. Amazing. Some of the jam recipes, some of the bits and pieces I had access to, I used to read. You know, what you're saying there about some of the fruits that were there to be used at a certain time, because at that point that's where they had the lowest amount of pectin or the most amount of fruit, or once we'd had a frost, there's lots of fruits that once we get to that frost, and vegetables as well, once we get that frost, an example is parsnips. If you plant parsnips and you pick them before the frost, they're very woody and they're very dry and they're not very sweet. As soon as you've had that first frost, all the sugars in there invert, so you get them really, really sweet, and they brown and they roast and they're brilliant. And the same is with peas. Peas is the opposite. Once the last frosts have gone, if it frosts while peas are growing, they end up really, really sour. If the frosts have gone, when they grow, they're very, very sweet. So there's all these things happening, whereas this is a problem of just demanding fruits and vegetables that are just grown all year round. We lost the flavour notes and we lost the properties of them. So, yeah. Happy days. Can you replace all the cream with a fruit puree or fruit juice to make a caramel? You can, but you're going to need to replace the fat in there, otherwise it will recrystallize. So if you just did a plain caramel, if you think about this, if you just did a plain caramel and you added nothing to it, it will set as a solid sheet. Okay, so that's one giant crystal. If you add more water to it, those crystals will break up and it will cause a mass of lots of other smaller crystals. So to stop that happening, we would add a fat to it, right, which would just stop them binding together, right? So you can replace the cream with the fruit puree, but you need to put the fat back in, and this is a problem. Adrian, I know you're asking about vegan things. Vegan caramels, it's a fine art. You need to put the fat back in. If you don't, and the fat that you put back in can be butter, vegan one obviously, or it can be chocolate, but you still need to replace that fat to change the fluidity and to bind it all up so that it doesn't recrystallize. So I dare say you could go right at the beginning with inverted sugar, but then you'd lose some flavour, and the problem with inverted sugar is sweeter than sugar. So yeah, inverted sugar is normally kind of 1.5, 1.25 times the sweetness of sugar, so you don't want to use that either. And glucose doesn't really have any job in caramels at all. Well, it doesn't do anything at all, really, to be honest. Not sure if the link showed. It's recipecurio.com. I'll list that at the end. I'll see if I can find it and I'll post that. I make dairy-free caramels. Yeah, put a lot of fat coconut oil, to be exact. Yeah, you do. You've got to replace the fats, otherwise it just crystallizes again. And you can make one. You can leave it on the side, and you'll come back, and it'll just be like a big grainy mass. It's not very nice. So, there we go. Does isomalt behave like regular sugar? Isomalt is a diabetic sugar. Isomalt's got some good properties. It does behave like normal sugar, in that it will dissolve, and then you can cook it. But the difference with isomalt is it's quite good at binding up water. It's very good at binding up water, but it's expensive. Isomalt's a brand as well. It's a brand name of sugar. But isomalt, the nice thing about isomalt is it's low. It melts at a very, very low temperature. So where we would do pulled sugar work, we'd need to take that to quite high, kind of 117 or above. Whereas with isomalt, you can put it into a pan, melt it, colour it with water-soluble colours. You can colour it, but you can use it around 60 degrees. So you can make springs and pull it and do all these little bits and pieces. Which technically means you see all the pulled sugar that's being done now. Where they use isomalt, you might see them, they're doing this and they don't need gloves. It's because the sugar's not that warm. The other nice thing about isomalt is you can just put it back in the pan and remelt it. Whereas if you do normal sugar, it doesn't work that way. So it does. It's got the same properties. It's got the same qualities as normal sugar. It's a bit more useful when you want to make caramels that have got shear factor, or that can stretch, or that can, I don't know if you've seen the guys that have made the glass domes, or the sugar domes, where they put cling film over the top of a tub and a collar, where you pour the isomalt in the top. When you push down, it will create this air bubble, so you get this lovely dome. And that's isomalt. And if it doesn't work, you can just put it straight back in the pan and go again. There was a thing that we did years ago where we'd melt isomalt. We could dip a ring in it, pull it up and blow through it and get this great big bubble of glass. So isomalt's clever. Would I use it in bonbon work or in caramels? Probably not. It's probably an expensive way of doing it, to be honest. Does the coconut cream contain enough fat to the thick part on the top, or would I still need butter? I don't make, Adrian, I've answered you this before. I don't make a huge amount of vegan stuff. I think you've got to replace the fat like for like. So the fat content that would be in the cream, less the water content, that's what you've got to replace it with. There's got to be some recipes. Somebody must have some recipes for vegan caramels. I don't know. Lana Bauer does a few, I think. But it's fine art. It's a fine art. It's about getting that fat back into it. You can't make a caramel. You can arrest a caramel, but it will just get thicker and thicker and thicker, and any water that's in contact with it will just cause the whole thing to recrystallize. So you're going against the grain of science. So I've only made lollipops. The diabetic aspect made me curious. It's a really, really low GI sugar. So it's really low glucose sugar, isomalt. So isomalt's really good if you're doing poured lollies and things. Isomalt's really, really good, because if you make a mistake or it doesn't quite like it, then you can just melt it down and go again. Not a problem at all. And you can flavour them with the flavoured oils as well. Isomalt. You can put flavoured oils in there. It works really, really well. So really good. Okay, right guys, I'm going to go. I think I've answered lots tonight. I will repost this with all the notes tonight. Just remind me, what was that book again called? Curious, so was it? Where is it? Let me find it again. Recipecurio.com. I'll scribble that down. Recipecurio.com. Give me a bit of paper. Recipe.com. I like the old recipes. I love old recipes. I love resurrecting. I think one of the dishes, for all the chefs that know me, I do a blade of beef. It's a 48-hour cooked blade of beef, which I was very, very, very well known for. Incredible cooking, and it was a recipe that went back to the 1600s, right? So it was all good. Everybody have a nice weekend. Get in touch if you want trainings. If lessons, I will repost the lessons that I'm going to run through November. I'll try and get that done this weekend because I'm a little bit of a busy boy at the minute. I'm busy making these and chocolates. What else was I going to say? If you've got questions, yeah, send them over. Do not send me questions that say, send me a load of these and I'll give you a shout out. God, I'm sick of that this week. How many people are like, send me all of these and I'll give you a shout out? No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. The amazing people like you lot here, in the you buy it, you use it. That's a big enough shout out for me. Absolutely amazing. Right, I'm going to get going. Everybody have a good one. Stay safe. Be nice to each other. Keep pushing. It's nearly money making season with chocolate. Spot the mistakes before you make them if you can. Temperature is everything. Make sure you taste things as well. Taste. Taste is absolutely everything, all right? You'll be forgiven for slight marks on your bonbons. You won't be forgiven if they're not amazingly tasty, all right? Okay? So nobody ever looks at it and goes, well done, you got all the colours and the lines perfect, but they will go, well done, that tastes absolutely amazing, all right? So, what else? Have a go at doing some of these as well. This is very, very cool. It's very, very cool. It's very, very ancient. And I'll see you all soon. It's nearly the end of the year. And this is episode 74. So I'm going to hold those up because I want to do a picture of those at the end. That good? Bye-bye.